Okay. I want you guys to remember back to that time, because I know it's happened for pretty much all of us, or at least most of us, when you were taking that multiple choice test and you thought there's no way it could be A, could be B, could not be C, but it could be D. So you go back and you reread B and D and you think maybe I made the mistake, but you know for sure the first part of B is correct and the second part of D is correct, and you can't, these are facts that you know, and you can't compromise between the two of them. You have to pick one. So you go with your test and you whisper to your teacher, you know, this one might have 2 answers, and your teacher says, pick the most correct answer. But we studied the right answer, right? We didn't study for the most right answer. As students, we need to be able to fully express all the things that we understand on exams so that our knowledge and understanding is accurately represented in test results. And for this reason and many more, I believe that multiple choice tests should no longer be administered in schools. Mike Dickinson said, "The thing about multiple choice tests is that the answer is always right there. This disqualifies multiple choice tests from being a true and fair test of knowledge according to the Learning Solutions magazine's guidelines, which are 1, don't give away the right answer, and 2, don't resort to trickery to make the question harder." Which, while researching multiple choice tests, I have found that there are lots and lots of websites giving advice to teachers and professors on how to make multiple choice questions trickier for students. And that is not a true and fair way to test our knowledge. As students, we need to be able to fully express what we understand about a topic, retain the information, and practice applying our knowledge and manipulating what we have learned. Terry Hike said on the Washington Post, "The multiple choice test has been derided by educators for decades as incapable of truly measuring understanding, but yet we still use it every day." An example of why these tests are so inaccurate is on Grey's Anatomy, when April goes to take her test, and it's a multiple choice test to become a doctor, and she's studying and she's cramming, like I know I do, and I'm sure lots of us do, and she's cramming, so she memorizes little things and key words of each disease that she'll be dealing with in her field, and she passes, which is great, but she has her first patient and she misdiagnoses them, and this disease goes untreated, all because she didn't fully understand. Even though she got the good grade, she understood it at the moment, she didn't retain the information she had learned, and she didn't study correctly. The problem with multiple choice tests is that students are guessing. We're not getting partial credit for understanding multiple things but having to pick the most right answer. Teachers are getting inaccurate results instead of detailed results to readdress topics that are misunderstood. And we're not applying the material that we're learning. We're just filling in a bubble instead of writing and comprehending questions and answering them accurately and thoroughly. The multiple choice, an article titled "Multiple Choice Tests" on fairtest.org says, "Students may recognize or know facts or procedures well enough to score high on a test, but not be able to think about the subject or apply knowledge, even though being able to think and apply is essential to knowing the subject. Therefore, the conclusion that a student knows a subject because they got a high score on a multiple choice test may be false." The solution to this inaccuracy is to get rid of multiple choice tests and test students orally with short essay exams or long essay exams, short answer, anything, even like fishbowl discussions in class, so that students actually have to actively think instead of testing our rote memorization on certain subjects. Most topics that we learn about anyway are too in-depth to test with a multiple choice test. We need to be able to fully explain ourselves and our thought, and be able to receive partial credit for the things that we know and maybe just don't understand fully. The advantages or the disadvantages of maybe essay tests and short answer exams and even oral like questions and discussions is that they do take longer than Scantron tests to answer. It takes us longer to get our ideas out thoroughly, and it takes teachers longer to grade them. But overall, it's more efficient and it's more accurate for us as students and for our grades and our knowledge being accurately represented. The advantages to not using multiple choice tests anymore are that we as students get partial credit for the things that we know. We're not left guessing, and teachers get better feedback on what we as students didn't fully understand, and they can go back and readdress specific topics that weren't completely and thoroughly understood by the whole class. If we use Scantron or multiple choice tests and other forms of testing, the courses are a little bit lopsided and wonky because some material in the course is thoroughly reviewed and readdressed, and others it just skipped over, we memorized it, we didn't retain it, where some parts of the course we would retain. Scantron only or multiple choice only isn't a very good method because, again, we're not retaining the information, we're memorizing it, and then it comes to the final and we have to re-memorize it all over again. But when we use other exams like short essay, short answer, or even essay and class discussions, everyone is interacting, it's active learning instead of just memorizing, and it's applying the knowledge that we have. And we need to interact with the material instead of just bubbling in and guessing and gambling between which answers are correct. If we start using different types of exams, we can avoid misdiagnosis like on Grey's Anatomy. And if we don't start improving the accuracy of our testing, diseases may go untreated. Our future lawyers may wrongly accuse the innocent, and policemen and firefighters may misjudge a situation and put lives in danger because maybe we didn't remember or retain that information. I need you guys to understand the importance of our education and properly testing our knowledge so that we can accurately measure what we know and what we are coming out of courses with, so that we can apply our knowledge thoroughly and know that we understand.
So Corey, what did you think? Well, that makes that easy. All right, well then I guess I'll just tell you what I thought. I thought the visualization you had at the beginning as your attention device was fine. It pulls us into the subject. It's pretty clear what your goal is in the purpose statement, so that's fine. I do think you need to structure it a little bit more, but you do identify a problem. I thought your information at the beginning of the speech that criticized multiple choice tests was the best stuff in the speech when it came to supporting your argument. You had a couple of folks that you were quoting who talked about, look, the answer is right there, so it's not really a test of what they know, but whether or not they can choose correctly between the options that are there, that we need to be able to recall the information and utilize it a particular way. I thought those were fine. I'm a little iffy about the hypothetical on Grey's Anatomy. I do appreciate the example. I think there's nothing wrong with using it. I just think that it would be nice if you had some other illustrations to go along with this as well. So the general criticisms of multiple choice tests are fine. and that's fine. The thing that I think you suggest as alternatives, you need to demonstrate that they are in fact effective and that they would be able to accomplish the same goals. You kind of take it as a presupposition that that would work, and I'm not sure that that's true. There are times, just as an example, I'm sure that you would think that the test, the multiple choice test, when people, the question's right in front of them and they know the answer and that one of those is the correct answer, you'd think the scores would go higher, right? And the same sort of thing, if they know what's coming, you'd think the scores would go higher, right? I have proof positive that that's not going to happen. We went over the test the other day. I don't know that the tests will get better. I think they will, but I'm not sure that they will. And I'm just going, okay, so what's another way to do this? Now, I don't know that there are courses that rely just on multiple choice tests, for instance. There probably are, and I think you need to identify those a little bit more, and especially talk about what's important about making sure that people get those sorts of things. But all the classes I teach, multiple choice questions are part of the process, for instance, but they are not the sole method of evaluation in the class. And so one of the things that they always stress in academia is multiple methods of evaluation, so that you're not relying on just one technique. If you could show that there are a lot of courses that are relying just on multiple choice questions as a way to do this, I'd be a lot more concerned about your argument and say that's really important. On the other hand, I don't watch Grey's Anatomy, so I don't know. What's the character's name? April. I assume that April probably had experiences in the classroom, discussions like you talked about. It's not just, let me read the book and then take a test. So why it is that she wouldn't have been able to do this even though she passed the test, is that because they didn't cover it in the class? I don't know. It's one of those things. So I'm having to kind of visualize in my head. But I like the subject. It's clearly applicable to this audience. I think it fits in with what we're doing here. Presentation stuff is pretty good. I think that you do a nice job speaking to us. You do have a tendency to kind of swing your leg around a little bit. You probably know that that's where your anxiety is coming out. I'll just mention it. There you go. Thank you.